A couple people asked about this bike as seen on my Mosquito Creek videos. I've had this bike down in the Twin Lake area. I've just brought it up north finally. So I'm moving out of the Twin Lake area. No longer going to have two homes. Going to have one small home to try to live out of. At any rate, back to the bike. So I bought this bike back in 1990, I'm thinking. Maybe even earlier. So I had this bike a long time. It's the first bike I ever bought brand new myself from a store. I bought it from paid top dollar. I bought it from a bike store. So it's actually the most money I've ever paid for a bike, even though it has no suspension. What it has is a very good frame that's been able to take the extreme punishment I used to put this bike through down at Mayberry out in Northville area, Northville Township, I think. Anyway, I used to run this bike like crazy through the little gullies and stuff there. This bike could be shaking and flexing and vibrating like crazy, but it never broke. As I stormed through these little ravines and stuff they had there. So good equipment lasts a long time. You know, the rear derailleur and the rear wheel have been replaced. Used to have Sun Tour gear on it. Just got hard to get parts for, and I think that's why we ended up replacing it. So the bike is finally showing some wear. The tire I'm finally going to replace. This is the original tire. But yeah, it's getting pretty smooth. I was sliding around a little bit last time at Mosquito Creek. I'm going to miss that place. I may have to go back there. Probably take a different bike just for variety. But you see these bikes, these shoes have gotten really worn. Original shoes. You got kind of an edge to them, which is making them stick. And it makes the cable pop off. So I've bought new shoes for it. I'm going to replace the shoes. And I think I'm going to replace the tire too. Of course, I got to order something. And a friend was asking me about, putting a bigger tire on a bike. And I've done it to most of my bikes because I'm in a sandy, snowy area, so bigger the better for me. I can't go too much bigger. What you got to look for on most bikes is right at the derailleur here, with the derailleur all the way in. I'm kind of pinned in. Anyway, with this all the way in, you got to look at the space between the derailleur and the tire. You can see I don't have much. So I can't go a whole lot bigger without having trouble. This is a 1.95. I think I'm going to go to a 2.1. I should be able to make that. I don't think I can make it 2 1/4. You can see I've got plenty of room in the stays for that much. But the critical spot is actually the derailleur. So when you're thinking of upgrading, always look at that. I am hitting on my other bike, my fat tire bike, to a very small degree after I went to bigger tires on that bike. Well, it's kind of hard to show this, or even see it through the viewfinder. Yeah, the gap right here between the frame and the tire is down to about a couple millimeters, since I centered it up a little better. So yeah, you want to center up your wheel when you're evaluating it, and see how much distance you have there with your existing tire, and then make your best guess at what you might be able to fit on there. This one fits real tight. Most conditions it'll never rub, but under torque and wheel a little bit off, it'll rub. Back to the Rockhopper. Yeah, I've done some customizing to it. I've put pedals on, same pedal I use most of my bikes. Foamy grips, which I can't get anymore, by the way. They used to be Nash bar. I don't think they sell it anymore. There's still a bit of friction in there, even after well broken in. My pedals aren't lower friction. It's not terrible, but it's not great. And I always like these foamy grips. I like to put these on all my bikes, basically. You get a lot of shock absorbing just holding these a little bit looser. I love those. Original seat. Held up pretty well for as many years as it's had and miles. Them tires held up really well too. They're just barely due now for all those years. I think I'm going to get tires for it. I just got brake shoes for it. Keep it up to date, although I've got an excess of bicycles. I have to cull the herd eventually. I mean, 10 bicycles is kind of crazy. I do use most of them. And the one I don't use much at all, my brother's probably going to take off my hands. But at some point I'm going to have a bike sale. This is really my best, highest quality mountain bike. My other one's got a full suspension though. It's a Kent. Gee, I've got the fat tire bike and the Kent. And this bike for mountain bikes. And I got a real cheap mountain bike I use for canoeing. Because I don't care if it gets stolen really. I mean, I would care, but I'd care a lot more if one of my best bikes got stolen. But that's about it for this bike. Good old Warrior. Quality brand. Big price tag. The frame is held up. It's got a lifetime warranty in the frame, and like I said, this frame's been through hell and back. Yeah, so old that both sprockets and chain are different than the original. I'm not sure if I did a bottom bracket on this bike or not. Probably a cartridge bottom bracket more than likely. It may come with one though. Changing out the brake shoes turned out to be a little bit of a chore. It's not so hard to remove the old ones, but getting the new ones in and getting these little eccentric washers just right, so the angle's just right, takes a little bit of fiddling. So I guess I'd advise loosening the old one up and not changing the angle too much on these washers, and trying to slip it out and get the new one in pretty much the same way the old one was. If you really do get lost in these washers, you probably need to clean them up real well, get them slipping against each other. But I'm just trying to not disturb them too much, get them in as they were, pushed against the rim in the right position, which I can't do and hold the camera, but I'll work with both hands, get the thing pushed against the rim, and then tighten it up. And with the rear gray matter is the model of these pads. They're Dia-Compes, but they're gray matter. And they stop like glue, at least in back. The front didn't stop too badly. They're not going to go head over the front wheel or nothing. I have it set a little looser, of course, but they don't seem to grip as bad as they do in the front as they do in the back. Back they really grip tight. In fact, I got these on backwards, don't I? Oh, yeah. I put the front ones on backwards. That's why they don't grip so tight. I'll have to think about that. The fronts weren't worn too severely. They were getting there. But the back ones had formed an edge on them, and that was making them hang up. And sometimes when they hung up, the cable would come loose. A quick release. And I flipped the fronts around. They do stop a little better. They still don't grind the tire to a halt like the back does, but they're not set as tight either. That's good. Don't want to do a head over heels. You don't want the brakes in front stopping better than the brakes in back, that's for sure. Always want your back brakes to be a little bit better. The backs can lock the tire right up and pull a skid. The Front tires resist skidding. If I pulled on the brake lever hard enough, I could probably make the front skid as well, but they don't skid readily as the back almost does. And that's the story of my Specialized Rockhopper. Served me well. Still a lot of original parts.